We got to talk about wide receivers. And what up, though, with Detroit Gunny says, just a teaser. Amon-Ra St. Brown dropped 19 spots from the previous year's list, according to Pistol List Pete Prisco.
Hey, I hope that Justin makes his way back into the studio because JB Smooth, you know what? Here's what we'll do. You put up Amon-Ra, and then you react to it first before any of us do.
That's right, man.
Here, I'll read it out loud for the people who are on audio only, and then I'll throw it back over to you, JB Smooth. Put up Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra, according to Pete Prisco, is listed as the 58th best receiver in the NFL.
What?
Justin Jefferson at 5, Jamar Chase at 8.
Neighbors? Okay.
CeeDee Lamb at 27. Tyreek Hill at 30. Kool-Aid, you're right, by the way. Tyreek Hill at 30. A.J. Brown at 31. Brian Thomas Jr. at 44. Malik Neighbors at 43. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 58. And I think almost as egregious, Puka Nacua all the way at 63. But they do have Amon-Ra over Puka, which I agree with. But, man, that list is interesting. What say you, JB?
There's Justin. Go ahead, JB.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Justin.
I feel like Justin right now. Like, I've lost interest in this list based off of before and this alone. I mean, I give you credit for Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. That's fine. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown. At a certain point, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts had issues through and halfway through that season. Brian Thompson, Malik Neighbors, great rookies. I still need to see it more consistent. I will probably give them this number next year if they have, better stats. But to have Amon-Ra at 58, this is ridiculous.
Behind a couple people coming off.
This is nonsense. This is an insult to the Detroit Lions, to the wide receiver core that we have here. This is terrible. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kool-Aid.
What?
I'm still saying, look at this. This is absolutely insane to me. I think it's absolutely disrespectful to Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is what I was talking about the other day. People can't wait to try and just throw the dirt on the Detroit Lions. And I think that this is lazy. I'm starting to understand now. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be a guy who attracts a lot of headlines, right? And there's a big push about who he's going to be as he comes back. I think it's just lazy. You just throw him up there number one without even parsing what's the reality here. And it's not difficult. Like, Benet is clearly our number one player. And he's slated for, even if we believe that Aiden Hutchinson can become better as it relates to our top players, we know that he's injured. He's coming back. He's going to have to prove himself to get into it. And right now, Benet is just proving what he is. When you talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, another one of those, not just culture changers and setters, but he's just one of those just game changers and game breakers from a different standpoint. Whenever the Lions need him, he's been there. And I just don't understand what people need to see. All the flash, all the pizzazz, certain stats and things of that nature. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy who got a whole lot more attention this year and still continue to go out there and make the catches and still continue to go out there and take the hits and still continue to go out there and be the Detroit Lions' best wide receiver on a team where everybody ate. He could have had even more. That's the component of it that I'm just like, what are you talking about when you're putting these things up here? You definitely want to be able to say, you know what? Shout out to guys like Malik Neighbors. Shout out to Brian Thomas Jr. for having the seasons they did. But I'm sorry, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Period.
Go ahead, Justin.
Not many of these guys have 1,400 yards in their career in a season. And on top of that, Amon-Ra St. Brown had more receiving yards last year than Neighbors, had more touchdowns than Neighbors, had more touchdowns than Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. only had like 25 more yards than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Tyreek Hill didn't even have 1,000 yards last year, so that's kind of utterly ridiculous that he's up there. Like, sorry, like, what are we even talking about? If you don't eclipse 1,000 yards in a season as a wide receiver, you have no ground to stand on to try to be in a list of a top 50, even top 10 receivers. If you're thinking about the top 10 receivers, Tyreek Hill should be off this list. Like, I know he's great in his own regard, but last year he was awful.
He was terrible last year.
No, honestly, Justin, you're right. I've got as much respect for Tyreek Hill as anybody. He's a Hall of Famer at his peak.
100%.
At his peak, he's one of the most electrifying players any of us have ever seen. He's a champion with the Chiefs. We all remember that 3rd and 15 wasp play that that Patrick Mahomes hit to him. That being said, Tyreek Hill stunk last year. He was one of the most underwhelming players based on expectations probably in the NFL.
I think that's fair. Where's Drake London? Where's Nico Collins?
to answer your question, sorry to interrupt. Nico Collins is about 67, and Mike Evans is like down near like in like the 80s, 90s. Yeah.
Nico Collins missed half the season and still put up 1,000 yards.
Nico Collins.
Like, what are we talking about here?
It's inconsistent because we saw Aiden Hutchinson miss even more than half the season, and look at where he's ranked. Like, that's what I'm saying. This list, I just think it's a little lazy.
Yeah, honestly, Nico Collins should be ahead of Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors. And for the record, again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm crapping on Thomas and Neighbors. They are really, really good.
Yeah.
They could be really, really good in the NFL for a long time. I especially think that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to eat this year. However, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and this is my opinion, I would have no problem with him being at 5, but I would also have no problem with him being at 3 in terms of wide receivers. I do think CeeDee Lamb is just as good as him, and I do think A.J. Brown is just as good as him. My problem is Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't 27 spots below A.J. Brown and
100%.
31 spots below CeeDee Lamb. They should all be, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, do you want me to be honest?
Talk to me.
Put him at 30. And put him at 30.
Yeah.
And put Puka Nacua way higher.
Yeah.
And
He had 1,000 yards and he was hurt half the season too.
Yeah.
Like, what are we even talking about?
Puka Nacua is arguably better than A.J. Brown, in my opinion. I think it's close. I think Puka Nacua is the 6th best receiver in the NFL, with Amon-Ra being anywhere between 3 and 5. I think it's Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee, Brown, Amon-Ra, and Puka. There should be no rookies they should be on the list but lower. Tyreek Hill was terrible last year. And
Nico Collins should be on that like elite list too, not like above the rookies 100%. Nico Collins is unbelievable when he's on the field.
He's 67, and let me just scroll through this.
Why?
Greg,
Some of
the
these
players see this, and yes, they actually do see this stuff.
Yep.
They do.
Some of these like have like such recency bias in them, and then some of them are just like there's no recency bias. There's like no criteria that we're looking for here, and like that's what really bothers me.
And
like we're gonna go with the recency bias of Brian Thomas and Neighbors, but we're just gonna forget what Amon-Ra St. Brown does and what Tyreek Hill does. Like what are we talking about? Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, this isn't Flannel's list. This is Pete Prisco of CBS.
And unlike Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown actually followed up his. Okay, Spenny. I'm sure Spenny thinks that Xavier McKinney should be off the list, maybe 300.
101 is fine. 101
the
is
Giants
a good
got
spot.
better trading him. The Packers, the only reason they didn't win the division is because that bum Xavier McKinney was holding them back. This makes me mad. But anywho. 81 was Terry McLaurin, just for some.
What?
82 Mike Evans.
Scary Terry, huh?
Ooh.
82 Mike Evans.
91
Mike Evans
Devontae
way too
Adams.
low. Wow.
Damn. And Broder's not gonna like this one. 93. It's good that he's on the list, but Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey is closer to Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors than 93 and 44 and 45. He's right up there with those two in my opinion.
Ladd could have been in that Puka spot.
Do you know who didn't shit himself in the playoff game? Ladd McConkey. He came to play. It's just Justin Herbert did choking things. Ladd McConkey showed up.
Yeah.
Ladd McConkey had a great rookie year. And shout out to Broder. You might as well call him Matt McConkey.
That sounds spinning in the building, heavyweight.
But he's on the list, but he should be higher. 100%.
Goodness gracious. And where do you see Amon-Ra? Wait, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, Justin. Where should Amon-Ra be right now on this list, and where do you believe he'll be at the end of the season?
I think that he should be. Can you do that list up again, JB, so I can see the list? I think he should be 30. I think that he should have Tyreek Hill's spot, and I think that next year he'll be in around the same spot. I think we've seen what we're gonna have with Amon-Ra. I don't think that we're gonna see more from him. I think that 1,400 yards is his cap, and he's going to be a great receiver when it comes to getting the ball when we need big plays.
Yeah. I think, Amon-Ra, I said earlier, I think he should be – if CeeDee Lamb's 27, Amon-Ra's 30, and A.J. Brown is 31, I think that's acceptable.
That's the group he needs to be in.
Even if you want to say, hey, and honestly, if you said Amon-Ra at 27, CD at 30, and A.J. Brown at 31, have no problem with that
There's
either.
an argument.
Ryan,
what do you say?
He believes that Amon-Ra should be ranked higher than Hudge.
There's an argument for that based on 2 consecutive All-Pros. I just think First team All-Pros. Shout out Spenny.
He went down like 20 spots.
Yeah.
Winning first team All-Pro.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And
Yeah,
shout
that's
out to the
crazy.
Heavies. They did this topic on their show and did a great job as well. But yeah, Yeah, if you want to say Amon-Ra should be ahead of Aiden, I have no problem with it.
I agree with this here. What up, though, with Detroit Gunny? St. Brown will be top 5 year in and year out until he hangs him up. I believe this with a lot of Detroit Lions. I think that a lot of these players are going to be top 5 in their positions, but every year it's going to be easy for national media to go and discount them. I don't know why. Like, shout out to Spinney with the 2 years in a row All-Pro. But that doesn't seem to matter in the minds of people who want to quickly be able to bury this team as it relates to Super Bowl expectations, where they want to bury this team as it relates to even in the NFC. That's what's so wild. And people are it seems like they're just happy to just forget about the Lions. It seems like a lot of this, like we said, they consistently, well, we'll go to Lions ball, we'll throw Aiden Hutchinson in there. It's just lazy from the start. And then you look at where all these other people slot, and you're sitting here telling me that McKinney is better than Brian Branch. Like, that's, I don't know, man. But I do believe that when you look at players like Sam Laporta, when you look at guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, when you look at guys like even Penei Sewell, it's amazing how much success these guys have contributed to for the Detroit Lions. And effectively, we all believe that these guys are going to definitely move up these lists and potentially start to take the spots of some of the elites of the elite.
You know what's funny? Because I was, and you're right, by the way. I was Ryan's reaction said what he said about Amon-Ra and Hutch, that Amon-Ra should be higher. I actually think that when you're talking about someone like Pete Prisco, I still think Pete Prisco sees Amon-Ra as largely a slot guy. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a slot guy either and dominating from the slot, but Amon-Ra is much more than that. He's been first-team All-Pro a couple years in a row. The difference between him and, like, Aiden Hutchinson is because Aiden Hutchinson is the Terminator from the edge rushing position. He's tall. He's big. He's as talented an edge rusher as there is in the NFL, except maybe Myles Garrett or somebody like that. When it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's looked at as small and maybe a slot guy. Incorrectly, by the way, but that's the only way you could explain him being as low on the list.